Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. We're sitting as Committee of the Whole Council today, and we're receiving two delegations. I am Mayor Jibb, and we are here in the presence of a full council, and our deputy clerk is with us. Although she's left her real spot up here to do some technical work on the side. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 1 o'clock. Our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contribution to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Item 3, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest to be declared today? Seeing none, that will be recorded. Next item, motion to confirm agenda. Prepared motion is that the Committee of the Whole agenda for June 10th, 2025 be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mark, seconded by John. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations. I've had the occasion to meet Andrea Groff in the past, and welcome. Now, at one point in time, we had Dr. Fraser Cameron with us via video. Is that the case still? Okay. I'm not going to have the advantage of this screen working at this point in time. So. Okay. Pardon me? My screen's black. If that means anything or not, I have no idea. I didn't do anything. There we go. Is that all we need to do? I was afraid of doing something wrong. Okay. Formally, welcome. We have Andrea Groff, Executive Lead of the Ontario Health Team of Northumberland, and Dr. Fraser Cameron, Physician Lead on Ontario Health Team Northumberland Primary Care Network, with us via Zoom. I'm going to turn this part of the meeting over to you. And the only thing I'll just ask staff to confirm is that our microphones are on at the desk. The floor is yours. Welcome. Feel free.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you all for your time and allowing myself and Dr. Cameron to come and talk to you a little bit about the Ontario Health Team of Northumberland and primary care physician recruitment. I have a little PowerPoint presentation just to have a visual to anchor your eyes as I talk through some of the slides. I'm going to start with just a little high-level understanding of what an Ontario Health Team is and what your Ontario Health Team of Northumberland represents. And as you see, we're making healthcare more connected in Northumberland, and that is our job. Oh, I'm fighting against you, and you won. So this is a map of Ontario. There are 58 Ontario health teams across Ontario. We're funded by the Ministry of Health to Ontario Health, to us, our local, every region, community across Ontario has their own Ontario Health Team divided into 58. And you can see ours there. We're number 10. I think it's 1029 in purple. That is our Northumberland County and Ontario Health Team of Northumberland. We were one of the first designated Ontario Health Teams across Ontario in 2019. I'm just going to pretend to do that and then, okay, thank you. So the goal of an Ontario Health Team is to build a connected and sustainable healthcare system centered around the needs of patients, caregivers, and family members. And when we say centered around the needs of patients, family, and caregivers, we have a really strong, we call it Experienced Partner Council, and that's a group of patients, community members, caregivers, and family members, caregivers, across the county that help guide and drive the work that we do. Really important that patients are at the center of the work we do with the Ontario Health Team. And the OHTN is a county-wide collaboration of those patients and caregivers. Healthcare and community providers is a really key point. So healthcare and service providers all across the county collaborate in this body called Ontario Health Team. Together, we work to improve the experience of patients and caregivers and also of providers across Northumberland. I'm pretending to click ahead. My clicker is not working, or I'm not pressing the right button, which is possible. Some of the things your Ontario Health Team does, and I say your Ontario Health Team is because we represent everyone throughout Northumberland County. We help community members find the right services through our website and through our hotline. So we have a new Ontario Health Team website that has an interactive platform. If you're looking for some kind of a healthcare service, you go to the website, you put in that service, and it'll show you on a map where you can access that service. We're building a more and more robust kind of a navigation platform on that website because we know healthcare is complicated. Us who are behind the curtain in the healthcare system have challenges understanding the pathway through healthcare. What an OHT does is it helps you navigate that pathway through the healthcare system. We have a hotline too, so if people aren't comfortable using the website, they can call and we can help them navigate the system. We're developing new health programs to meet community needs, like a COPD program. We provide services for people without a local family doctor or nurse practitioner through the Rural Outreach Clinic, through community paramedicine program, through cancer screening clinics. On Saturday of this week, we have a free cancer screening women's clinic in Port Hope that we're offering to the public. We support online appointment booking for family doctors and nurse practitioners so that it's easier for patients and community members to book appointments with their doctors. And we have established the primary care network. This is a really important piece of work that we do as an Ontario Health Team. Our current mandate and priority trickled down from the Ministry of Health and Ontario Health is that we focus as much of our attention as possible on the number one priority, which is access to primary care. This is a really important part of the work we do is access to primary care. Our Ontario Health Team has a primary care network. It's a group of family doctors, nurse practitioners, primary care clinicians, primary care leaders work together to make sure that primary care is connected across Northumberland County. We focus on strengthening the local primary care, solving shared challenges, and working together. Oh, it actually did work. Okay. So family doctor recruitment in Northumberland. At this point in time, there are 3 recruitment committees across the county. Trent Hills, Brighton is connected to Docks by the Bay, and the West Northumberland Physician Recruitment Retention Services, big long name. And each of these committees have had varying degrees of success. In particular, the West Northumberland group has really struggled to get a recruiter, get doctors into West Northumberland. West Northumberland is a big part of our Northumberland County population. We identified and heard from our doctors group that this is a gap and this is a problem, that we're losing doctors through retirement faster than we can bring new doctors in. And that leaves abandoned, orphaned patients out there without having a doctor. And we heard very much loud and clear from our physician group that this is a critical situation. We spent some time bringing partners together to collaborate on what is the best solution for a countywide approach. We did an EnviroScan to figure out what else is going on in Ontario, who's doing it well throughout Ontario. It concluded with a vote with all of those partners, including patients, families, and caregivers, that the Ontario Health Team of Northumberland, because of our connection to primary care, because of our funding around primary care and our focus on primary care, that it would make sense for the OHT to take on physician recruitment. We said, we'll do it if that's what the need is, and set out to hire a recruiter. And then quite soon after, the county did their county council meeting, and they had a motion that said that physician recruitment would sit with the county. We really need to get somebody recruiting physicians yesterday. We're in a really critical state. So if the county is willing to take that on, we are there to support the county's success. Let's do it. Let's get a recruiter in place. The OHT will be there to partner and support. We also request that the OHT is a part of that advisory group so that there's that connection to the physicians, because they can't recruit for doctors without that really important stakeholder around the table. So two things that we really are hoping we can impress upon the county council, that they urgently get a recruiter in place and that they make sure there's a link to the primary care network, that physician group that's part of the Ontario Health Team. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Fraser Cameron, who speaks really beautifully, eloquently about this, and he can fill in any gaps that I've left. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Don't know how eloquent I am or beautiful. I just want to start with thanking you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm a Port Hope physician and I'm a family physician. I've been in the area for 10 years and I've seen the previous.
Dr. Cameron?
Yes.
Sorry for interfering. We're having some audio problem. Is that possible? Any of that's at your end in relationship to your microphone?
I can hear you perfectly well. My
We can't
microphone
say
is
the same
working.
about yourself, Doctor.
Okay. I can try putting an earphone in and see if and use the microphone here. Let me see if I can do that.
Yeah, we'll take a moment and just do a test or two, Dr. Cameron.
Each person, each member of council has a.
Testing my microphone. All's good here.
Can you do another test for us, Dr. Cameron?
Testing.
I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
All right, I will start again. Thank you
Yes,
for
please.
the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm a Port Hope family physician, and I've been there for the last 10 years. In my time in this position, I've seen recruiting was working to kind of fulfill the needs that we had. We were replacing those we lost. We weren't exceeding that, but it was at least adequate. Over the last 3 to 5 years, we've no longer been doing that. I've seen several practices close without replacement. At least that's 3 over the past year. And that never happened previously. And I've seen that the recruitment committee has not been able to hire a recruiter for over 8 months, I believe. And that gap is, to the physician body, unacceptable. We're not able to keep up with the previous recruiting needs that we had, and we are falling desperately behind. When it was announced to physicians as a whole that the OHT was going to be taking this on and was moving very fast to make a hire, that provided a little bit of reassurance to the group. And we were quite happy about that. When that motion was made at County Council to stop that progress and instead embark on a different path, a path that physicians were not communicated with, the OHT was not communicated with about, that left us in a bit of a dark place as a community. We were pretty upset about that, as we were finally seeing progress. Not just our physicians who are nearing retirement were finding that frustrating, but it was those of us like myself who are we're needing support and needing people to work with us. And that delay is just very disheartening. the physicians that are in the community, they're not just people that we work with, they're not just colleagues, they become our family. And we need more of them to continue to provide care to the county, which is growing. And I do advocate for a county-wide approach. I wish we were able to move quickly and as quick as it looked to be moving previously. And so I'm, as part of the physician network, primary care network, I want to work with whoever is going to be holding this responsibility, but I want them to move quickly and hire someone. And I really, that's something we as a physician network need to see, or primary care network. We desperately need. And I leave it to Andrea if you have anything else further to add.
That's great, Dr. Cameron. Thank you.
If that concludes our presentation component of this, I certainly have a comment, but before I get to that, I will turn to my fellow council members and ask if anyone has a comment or question for either Andrea or Dr. Cameron. John, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is, have you heard from the county whether they're going to hire a recruiter full-time or part-time?
I had a call with Glenn Dees from the county today, and it sounds like they're moving ahead with full-time. And I think a 2-year contract. I offered up our job description and the salary band and anything we can do to help them move quickly on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Larry, I'll just go around the room. Larry.
Thank you, Andrea and Dr. Cameron. As I was sitting on the West Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Board, I can only say I want to apologize to everyone for the board's inability to deliver. It's been very frustrating, extremely frustrating. I believe when I heard that the Ontario Health Team was going to take it on, I thought, well, finally, somebody in authority that knows what's going on and knows the marketplace, if you will, really can start making this happen. And I can understand the frustration that the physicians are feeling. There's been no communication with the physicians from the board. There's been really no effective recruitment out in the marketplace. And it's a very competitive marketplace, as we all know. I mean, it's not an easy job, but we have been acting in part-time physician recruitment for several years, which isn't going to work. And finally, I believe the Ontario Health Team was involved, and I don't know if Dr. Cameron was involved in that. The Toronto Metropolitan University did what they call a design thinking process, which evaluated the needs of physicians and also evaluated the complexity of our community, in other words, the county. And it became obvious that they were able to bring together, I guess, a cohesive marketing strategy, if you will, of understanding what the doctors needed and understanding the complexities of the marketplace in the county. And came up with the idea that, or not just the idea, but the direction that it be county-wide. There's too many people playing a part in this recruitment process. And I thought that the board had approved that the Ontario Health Team move forward and hire a recruiter, which you did, the Ontario Health Team did, only to find out the next day, after the presentation was made, is that the county was going to take it on. I have grave concerns about that, and I speak openly about that. We're going to be starting from square one again, albeit there will be some I guess, participation by some people who know what's going on, I guess. But really, with my history with the West Northumberland Physician Recruitment, it's obvious to me that every time we had a board meeting, OTH and the Ontario Family Physicians and Dr. Cameron knew what was going on. The board was acting in a capacity of a board, directing and approving things, but nothing was being done. I can only take that as an apology that I can make to everyone because I was part of that. But here we are, the county has it. And I'm disturbed with that. But the fact is that the county has passed this and I don't know what recourse we have on that. But I can certainly understand the physician's position because this was always my concern is what are the physicians saying? I mean, they're the people we're looking out for to backfill the requirement for retirement, and then the backfill for those people who don't have a doctor in our area. And there's a lot of them, and it will keep growing. We don't have, proper facilities in some cases. I mean, we had a walk-in clinic that was very painful to get going. So I don't know where we go. I'm at a confused state because the county's taking it on, but I believe that in my heart that the Ontario Health Team should be doing this. And I think the physicians have already made it clear, I think through Dr. Cameron, is that that's their desire to work with an organization that understands what needs to be done. So I can only say those few words, but at the end, I want to again apologize to everyone for the lack of the boards being able to deliver. So that's thank you very much. And thank you, Andrea and Dr. Frames Cameron for coming here today.
Thank you, Larry. Mark?
Dr. Cameron, you mentioned the shortage of physicians and so forth within the community. How short are we? I haven't heard a recent number of how many physicians we're short. I mean, we've been short for years, of course, but I'm understanding now that growth we're even further behind than we've ever been. So can you give us an idea?
Sorry, it's hard to say exactly how many physicians we would need to have every patient have a local doctor because there's so many people that have doctors outside of the community. But I can say that our previous, we haven't had a person take on a vacant practice, I believe, since myself, and I came in 2015. And I know that 3 doctors have recently closed their doors without having replacement. At least 3 I can name off the top of my head. And I know that there are 3 to 5 more who are at risk of that happening to within the next year.
If I could add some data too.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Dr. Cameron.
No, go ahead, Andrea.
We have over 35,000 people in Northumberland County that are either not connected to a family physician or family provider or are not connected locally. That's 35,000. One doctor takes on maybe 1,200. Our average in our county is about a little over 1,200 patients. So I don't know what the math is on that, but it's like 27 if we were to provide attachment to all of those 35,000 people. We have something like 15 positions that are vacant across Northumberland County, so including Lakeview Family Health Team that lost some providers, including Trent Hills Family Health Team. And if you look at the ages of our physicians, we have 8 that are over 65. So wonderful that they're continuing to practice and they're healthy and carrying a robust practice into their 60s. And also we want to be able to allow someone to gracefully close down their practice and hand it off to somebody. We don't want physicians to be retiring and feeling anxious and like they're letting people down. And the word is orphaning, creating orphans of patients out there. We need to be able to support those 8 who are over 65. It's critical.
Yeah,
Mark, follow
those
up?
numbers are really scary. I mean, I didn't realize that we were in the deficit that we are. So, I mean, we're in crisis mode, basically. Can I ask, where are we going from here then? I mean, I hear it's going to the county. The county's hiring a recruiter. How is that going to work now for I'm not 100% sure where we're going. I mean, I'm really a little lost. I'm kind of where Larry is. I'm a bit
Yeah.
confused on what's happening.
It's sitting with the county to hire a recruiter.
Yes.
They're putting a posting together. I'm in the background and trying to support them and give them everything they need to move really quickly on this. Any support that we can get from this group to put pressure on the county to get somebody in that physician recruiter position as soon as possible would be wonderful. And as they develop their advisory group for physician recruitment, the county, they have to have Primary Care Network and the Ontario Health Team as part of that advisory group. We don't want them to feel like they're going to go it alone and cut us out of it, because the doctors need a voice on that group. Otherwise, they're not going to know who's leaving a practice. If I might speak on behalf of family providers, when a physician is leaving their practice, they don't announce it to everybody in the public and say, in 2 years, I'm going to be retiring. They hold it in. So you need a close, connected relationship with those providers to know when you need to start preparing to bring in a replacement. And that's what the OHT has. We have that primary care network. We've got a connection to the physician group.
That's where I was kind of leaning. I think the OHT has that connection where
Yes.
the county won't necessarily have that,
Yep.
maybe through the recruiter only.
So if we're on that advisory group, we are that pipeline.
Okay.
And that's what I'd like to advocate for as well. And I'd hope for your support in that. I sat on the previous committee with Larry, and I was on it for several years, and I was there as an advisory voice. But in the last few years, I was never asked for anything. Nothing was ran by me. I couldn't attend meetings, so I was really cut apart from it. And I fear that I just want a system where physician representation is there, as well as that I would like is more focus on recruiting and less focus on anything else. That position is for recruiting physicians, and I want them to have a strong connection to the physicians that they have to work with, because like Andrea said, physicians cannot advertise that they're leaving. It has to be kept in close confidence, and that person has to recruit quietly around for that job. And so we need to trust them. And right now there is a lack of trust between the physicians and the political bodies that ran the recruitment committee locally. And we need to have a trusting relationship with whoever comes into that role.
Bruce, anything at this time? Thank you. Any follow-ups? Larry?
If I could, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. When we decided from the board that the OHTN would take on the recruitment, you did put out a job posting, and you do have recruit applications right now, right? This is what really upsets me, is that the board sort of splintered up and went two different ways. And I'm really concerned. You know, Dr. Cameron has been telling us that we never talk to the doctors again. This is what concerns me also. It's that, you know, it's complex in the fact that there was always this confusion, just to give you some example, of the difference between recruiting for the family physician and recruiting for the hospital. And that was always a big confusion among people. And I want to make it clear that the recruiting that we're talking about is for family physicians, primary care. Now, Dr. Philpott, who was brought on by the province, her mandate was to have a doctor for every person in the Ontario province. I don't know where that sits right now, but I think it's still being worked on. And I understand, and maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, then please tell me, that her group, the Primary Care Connection, I think it was,
Action team.
is going to use the Ontario Health Teams as a nucleus to spread it out. In other words, to execute. And I don't know why we're splintering off to the county now, and I'm quite upset about it. But anyway, just so that everybody understands that there's a difference between family care and hospital care. And what we're talking about right now is family care. In other words, getting, first off, providing doctors with the opportunity to understand that when the time comes that they're going to retire, that there's an organization that's going to be working on their behalf to get a doctor to replace them. Because the burnout level in our doctors is just outstanding. Just to give you a sense, and we do have some statistics on this, is that there's doctors who are actually leaving the profession for the stress that has caused them, their profession. And they're going into other ways of earning a living. That's pretty sad. So that I'm going to quit now, but thanks very much.
I guess that gives me an opportunity to start now. Thank you, Larry. Although I haven't enjoyed that great a success lately at the county, I can assure you that I have spoken to this topic as well as I could at the time that the decision was made by the county. And I have heard several things very clearly today, which I will move forward as the representative of Hamilton Township back to the county. And that is the importance of the emergency nature of getting a recruiter in place. I've also heard the value of countywide recruiter. That, by the way, I think has already been accepted by the county in their previous motion. I also hear very clearly about the value and importance of Ontario Health Team being involved with the process, as well as the primary care network. Those are not new items to me. Those are items that I have spoken before at the county. And I have had to accept the fact that the county has taken on this responsibility. However, the organization, the matrix, is yet to be concluded at the county. So there is an opportunity for this to be a very positive thing, even at this point in time. I have had the occasion to not enjoy the best of health myself in the last while, including some ambulance rides earlier last week. And it has given me a lot of time to think of this particular program. And I've been called blunt and I've been called stubborn. Well, after you spend a few days in a hospital bed thinking with nothing else but physician recruitment, hospital care, and that type of thing, I think I've become more blunt and more stubborn. Dr. Cameron, Andrea, I will move this forward in every avenue that I can. And I thank you for your participation here today, Dr. Cameron, and your presentation, and as well as to you too, Andrea. I just will simply turn around the room. Is there any one more follow-up question, or are we good to move forward? Again, I emphasize to the both of you, thank you, not only for your presentation, but for your commitment, your interest, and your desire to make this work cooperatively with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you very much for your time.
We do have a prepared motion that the delegation by Andrea Goff and Dr. Fraser Cameron on behalf of the Ontario Health Team Northumberland be received. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And again, thank you to both of you. Our next delegation is in respect to Housing Solutions Workshop recommendations. We do have two presenters with us today. They're Holloway Wadwani. Forgive me if I'm not saying that quite right. I'm sorry, I don't know you. Claire, and of course, Anthony Dew, who I have known for quite some time. And they are representatives of the Intermunicipal Task Force on Housing and Homelessness. I simply will turn the microphone over to you and feel free to proceed.
Great. Thank you very much. Lovely to be here. My name's Claire. You got Wadwani pretty well, so thank you for that. But it is a tricky one, so I generally just go by Councillor Claire. But of course, I'm here this afternoon, not in my capacity as a councillor from your neighboring Port Hope, but as co-chair of the Intermunicipal Task Force on Housing and Homelessness, where I have the opportunity to work very closely with Councillor Levshin, as well as colleagues from lower tier councils across Northumberland County. And we work together to look at how we as lower tier municipalities can play a greater role in accelerating housing development across our communities to ensure that we're addressing the affordable housing crisis and connected homelessness, growing homelessness challenge that we face here as Northumberland County. To that end, we've been meeting for about a year and a half now, deepening our understanding of the opportunities that lower tiers have to support county-wide goals around housing stock development and growth. And most recently this winter, we co-hosted a workshop on housing solutions with our partner, the Northumberland Builders and Contractors Association, represented today by Anthony Dew, who's going to speak to that experience as well. So we convened a workshop in the winter. Oh, amazing. There we go. And this was a by invitation event where we sought to ensure representation from all 7 lower tier municipalities and representing all the different actors in the housing space. So recognizing that we don't build housing as local government, but rather we work with a whole slew of community stakeholders who are actually the ones building the housing. So looking at bringing together local politicians, senior planning staff from across the county, realtors, private sector developers and builders, nonprofit housing providers, lenders, to get in a room to be honest with each other and look at what are the things that are bogging us down. We call them pain points, but what are the things across that whole sort of process from land acquisition to people moving into new housing stock? Where are we getting bogged down? Where are we getting tripped up? And where are we experiencing points of friction as we try to collaborate and work together, given that we are all trying to work towards the same goal of seeing new housing come up in our communities? So I'm going to turn it over to Anthony now to speak about the experience of participating in that workshop and some of the recommendations that have come out of that process.
Thank you very much, Claire. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council, thank you very much for hearing us. It was through Claire reaching out to myself and the president of the Building Association that I became involved, and quite eagerly involved, as our company, Stallwood Homes, has along the way embarked on building a full spectrum of housing form across Northumberland County, from small 500 square foot studio condominiums, 900 square foot rentals, up to large houses such as the ones that we build in Baltimore in the Deerfield Estate subdivision. So we're actively involved in that, and we'll with some humility take responsibility for that sort of development building continuum that is part of the presentation to you guys, that we sort of brought forward to suggest in our interaction with municipal staff. These are the points in time where we are, where we end up with log jams. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you and I have known each other a long time and worked through the planning process, and the building process has only gotten more complicated, more regulated, and slower. And the old adage, time is money, is really an enormous factor in the cost of housing. Approvals that back 25 years ago that maybe it turned around in 4 or 5 days, 7 days are now at the point some of these take years or multiple years in order to get a project off the ground. And as we all know, as our land has become infinitely more valuable, as I've just found out with my mother selling the family farm, so a piece of land that was bought in 77 for 80,000 sold in the millions. So that's one of the big elements that has happened across the county of Northumberland in affecting housing affordability. So in turn, we are trying to put more units on less land. So some of these things we were able to touch on. Huge thanks to notably the Building and Planning Department at Hamilton Township. They reached out to me within 48 hours of this workshop to sort of have a debrief afterwards and to talk about what we did well and what we're able to work with you guys and do well in this particular municipality. And lots of credit because the planning process has grown from the Planning Act has grown from a document of 100 pages to something that looks like an old phone book. So again, that doesn't help our planners. And one of the things that we did touch on was encouraging councils and all levels of government to support senior staff as they embark upon maybe changing the way that we plan for land. We build housing in different forms, and to support planning staff when they are in support of perhaps putting multis. And it's not to say as technology has evolved that we don't have the opportunity to put multi-residential units even in rural municipalities such as Hamilton Township. So the last thing that we've noted, and I know this is new information, but what is exciting in the conclusions that we came up with at the task force is, interestingly, the provincial government has actually brought in a bill that's speaking to a lot of the recommendations that were made in March, February by this task force are now part of a provincial legislation called Bill 17. So I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Claire?
So on the screen, you'll see a small subset of the recommendations that are in the full report. I do encourage you all, if you haven't already, to read the full report. There's a lot of great detail in there, and you can also see sort of where the ideas came from some of the workshop materials. The reason these 4 have been highlighted is that these are ones that seem to have very common agreement across all stakeholders. I would say it's fair as people were arriving for the day. There were some folks showing up who assumed that we would be at odds with one another, that there were different competing interests that wouldn't necessarily align in terms of what the real challenges are. But I think my key takeaway, and that from the task force, was that there is an awful lot of agreement, even between parties that often find themselves in fairly adversarial relationships. But our goals as elected officials, our goals as planning staff, our goals as building officials, our goals as developers are one and the same. And we all agree on where we are not enjoying the process and where we are feeling frustrated in that process. So these recommendations are really around helping to address what we've heard from staff that they would like to see done, what we know we want done in terms of outcomes as local leaders. But we're looking to do it in a way that is perhaps more collaborative so that we can look at opportunities for streamlining things across the county so that we would potentially all lower tiers take a similar approach on certain matters. I know that was something we heard loud and clear from builders and nonprofit housing providers as well, that they work in multiple municipalities, and it would be it would be helpful if there were some commonalities so that it didn't feel like you're in a different country when you just cross an arbitrary political boundary in the same community, essentially the same community. So looking at opportunities where we can work together and essentially take things that we know we all want to be advancing, but unfortunately find themselves sort of on a little corner off the side of someone's desk and can't often sort of advance at the pace that we would like to. So our next steps, and really the reason we're here, so we have these recommendations, we've shared the report, but what we'd like now is to work together to sequence priorities, to take these recommendations and identify what are the things that are going to, make the biggest difference in a shortest period of time. So what are the lowest hanging fruits that we can tackle so that we can all feel like we've got something done, building on the momentum that we have right now, but also looking at the different recommendations to determine who is the appropriate body to tackle them? Which are the ones that we as lower tier municipalities feel we need to do that on our own because that's really specific to our local context and we would like to look at that independently versus some that we say, that's something we could happily allow the task force to run with and come back with further recommendations or take action on in a way that's helpful and welcomed by staff and respective councils. Are there recommendations that could be tackled by the county as sort of a shared service that would address a challenge or a gap that we have in common as lower tiers? So we're really looking for input from each respective council more broadly, although each council is represented at the task force, but more specifically looking now for more input from staff, from your CAO and from your senior planners and the planning department at large to understand what makes sense from Hamilton Township's perspective. What are the areas that align with pain points you have here in your particular context, and what are elements that maybe there's been a yearning for within your municipality that we could help advance and sort of take forward through the task force. So to that end, we have prepared a proposed motion that we hope you will consider at your council meeting. I understand your procedures would be, it would come to your council meeting next week. And the ask is, there's some lovely whereas language that reflects sort of the spirit of why we're working together through this process. But on the next slide is sort of the real meat of it. And essentially what we're asking for is a political endorsement that this is something that Hamilton Township would like to continue to see move forward, that you endorse taking action on some of the recommendations, but essentially that we're asking you to support your staff, your CAO, and your planning team to participate in roundtable discussions with other lower tiers in the county to help advise us on this sequencing and prioritizing and assigning of roles so that we can take these recommendations and find ways to move them forward independently or collectively in ways that are going to make sense for you as a municipality, as for the other 6 lower tier municipalities. So we hope very much that you'll consider this motion when you meet again next week. And in the meantime, I'm quite happy to answer any questions you may have about the process or about the task force and the next steps. Thank you very much.
I should look at Mr. Dew. Is there anything further you wish to add, or would you be okay if I went to my fellow council members for questions?
I happily defer to yourself, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions or comments from my fellow council members? Mark?
I'll just say that we in Hamilton Township have been really lucky with the staff that we have within our planning department and our building department. And in passing, if we could pass this motion next week or look at passing this motion next week, that our staff would be very beneficial for some of the other staffs within the county, because some of the other municipalities aren't as lucky as we are, perhaps, especially right now with the expertise and so forth that our staff represents. So I would hope that we could hopefully pass this motion next week and council seriously take a good look at it.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Bruce? John? Larry? Mark's comments have toned mine down a little bit. As majority of people in this room would know, I would have a very strong opinion. If I had been at your task force rather than our Councillor Lovshin, you probably would have had a longer session of discussion. My history here provides me an opportunity to have a lot of input to various topics. Mark's referenced our staff. I'm a little disappointed he didn't speak of prior staff, but he didn't. However, our current staff, I'll simply state, are on the cutting edge. And Mr. Dew, you've done business in Hamilton Township. You've lived in Hamilton Township. I think all of your life, if not most of it. And you know our policies, you know our communications. Claire, don't know your history, so I can't include you in that. And you know that if there's a difficulty, we create a solution. And we do have two difficulties right now. We have difficulty with provincial legislation that we're restricted by, governed by the Municipal Act, the Planning Act, the Building Code Act. In my term here, I've never had a great deal of success in having that changed in any category, any of those acts. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to work on those. The other component that we have, it's kind of a double-fold component, is again provincial legislation and provincial involvement. We have the Oak Ridges Brain at the north end of our municipality, as we do in other municipalities that join us, which restrict and in a lot of ways prohibit accessory dwelling units, a creation of new lots. In addition to that, we have a tie-in with the necessity of servicing. And in Hamilton Township, we have little water and no sanitary sewers, which cause our lot sizes to be larger and create more dollars in the upfront instances. So I'll just sort of quit at that and say, yes, I appreciate what's being said in the task force. And any of my further comments will be directed at staff or maybe Mr. Dew when I see him on the side of the road somewhere. But I thank you. I thank you for your presentation and certainly giving us some opportunity to think about the motion. And I just once again want to say in support of our staff here, council, this council and previous councils for many decades has supported planning and building departments in Hamilton Township, like no other municipality has received support in Northumberland County. I thank you. And yes, you're quite right, Claire, as you know, with your history. Today's not a decision day, rather a day that will receive the report and the presentation. Prepared reads that the delegation of the Intermunicipal Task Force for Housing and Homelessness be received. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mark, second by Larry. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Once again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much for having us.
Our next business is adjournment. And we're just in time because our next meeting is very shortly. And the motion to adjourn is that the whole meeting held on 10th, 2025 be adjourned at 1:55 p.m. by John, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor, carried. Thank you.